Okay. We must unfortunately begin here with Knicks Hawks game 1, the 4-5 matchup, Madison Square Garden, nearly capacity crowd of 15,000, the largest public gathering in New York State since the pandemic began. It was loud, it was raucous, and then all of a sudden it was really a lot quieter at the very, very end as Trae Young put the Hawks ahead. 107-105 is the final. To the victor go the spoils. So Renee, go ahead. I love.
Listen, okay, let me first start off by saying, yes, I know it was just one game. Okay, I've been an athlete my whole life. Of course I know it was just one game. However, I believe that this was a big win. Not just because it was just one game, but we got a young team that needs confidence. We got a young team. It's a lot of their first times in the playoffs. So you go to Madison Square Garden, you got Spike Lee on the hardwood doing the A-Town stomp on the hardwood, and you got 15,000 fans when I just need to remind people, we weren't even in the bubble. I just have to remind people that in case they forgot that whole atmosphere of the bubble. We weren't there. So, yes, we're excited that we're in the playoffs. We're playing great in the playoffs. And we stole a game on the road. So, I just had to start with that. Let's go! But I know it's not over yet. I just am excited. That's a good, huge win.
Listen, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, as I've said many a time, we're playing with house money right now. Does it hurt? Yes. Is there pain? Yes. Did I die 3 times over the course of the last 2 minutes of that game and only to be resurrected, only to finally die again when Trae hit that floater? One of many fucking floaters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
But Jason, okay, can I just ask you something though off top, Jason?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. To the victor go the spoils. You can ask anything you want.
Was like, as a fan, did you guys feel like you guys came together? I mean, all those chants. I even went on Twitter and there was like Trae Young slander. They wanted to talk about his hair, I guess, because his float game was so strong. They're like, let me attack his hair. What? Is this the New York way? Like, did you feel very united with New York because of this? Because it felt like y'all band together.
This is what it is. It's the playoffs. This is banter. This is why it's fun, right? You know, like, listen, Kendrick Perkins was on ESPN today saying the Knicks fans should be more humble, but come on, where everybody's excited. Yeah. It was so fun to have a crowd, a real crowd,
exactly,
in an arena. Forget where it was. It could have been anywhere. That was just like really fun and great to see. To the slander and the F Trae Young chants that began at the top of the game, I saw people saying, "Oh, that fired him up. Don't poke the bird." Listen, Trae Young doesn't need that. Trae Young is a great player. It feels so good to hate someone again. I hate Trae Young, but he doesn't need that inspiration. He didn't need it. He's not inspired. He's not going to go out there and kill us because he heard some chants or because whatever. It's playoff time. It's game 1 of the playoffs in MSG. He said it was Times Square. It's many, many blocks from Times Square. He doesn't even know where it is. It's fine. That does not get him excited.
All he knows was he was in the building, and in the post-game interview, as you guys know, I cover the Hawks. In the post-game interview, he said on multiple occasions, I don't forget nothing. So to that, like, don't poke the bear thing, yes, he was going to be turned up, but it's like you don't give players, for example, Donna Taurasi is a bear. And so when I had to guard her, in Minnesota, Coach Reeve loved to say, Renee, she's yours. Handle it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, I got it, Coach.
Hi, Deanna. Hi, Deanna. How are you today? How was your
exactly, like, yo, what up, baby? Bleed blue. Don't we, Husky love, like, I ain't poking that bear. Now, will Diana come and give me 25 regardless? Yes. But there is something to poking a bear. So you got to think about the psyche of a man that just hit the game winner with 0.9 seconds. He goes directly to, and quote, as I hit the floater, I just felt like everybody got quiet. He said, I was waiting on the
It did get
FU
quiet.
chance again. I was excited. That was at the top of his brain, Jason. The top
FU
of it.
No, it's the FU chance will be back on Wednesday. Trae Young is a professional basketball player. He's been hearing that in his own words, by his own words in various interviews, he's been hearing hate since he was a kid, since he was in AAU, smallest player on the court.
Yep.
Talking about how he shouldn't be out there. He's heard that his whole career. This is not extra for him. He loves this. There's an argument maybe that it's too comfortable for him doing that. But like this is what a full arena should sound like. This is what
This
full
is the
arena
stuff
in
that
New
dreams
York
are
should
made
sound
of.
like. Yes, and this is. Don't we love it? Aren't we talking about it right now? Didn't they
I
lead
love
Sports
it.
Center right now?
Listen,
This is
I
what
want
we
you guys
love.
to know we love this, okay?
Yeah, they love it.
And let me just say, I'm happy we won. But I feel like it's so
Oh wow!
evenly matched.
Spoiler alert! Dude, don't spoil it, Renee. Are you happy they won?
Yeah, just to throw it out there, I'm really happy and excited that we won. However, I am very aware that next game I could be sitting in the exact same position
That's how it
Jason is, because
go.
we won on a buzzer beater. Like, we won on
That's how
a
it
floater.
go.
It's not like we handled the New York Knicks. So I just want to say that even though we won, I know that there might be times we don't win. I'm still going to love it. Like, this is what we were yearning for as fans. Real playoff atmosphere with
Yes.
fans mad, fans going crazy.
This is
I'm yelling at
exactly
Jason
it.
on the internet.
That's what
like
we
this.
wanted.
This is what we really wanted. So at the end of the day, like, of course I'm hyped that the Hawks won, but I'm really hyped at what's happening. Like, this is like, sports are really back. Like, they're back now.
They're really back. Let me just say this. I'm not mad at the fans. I love what the fans did. I have some criticisms for Spike. Number one, Knick fan Spike. Spike, don't dap up the opposition. Don't do it.
Dap
Don't
me up,
dap
bro!
Don't dap up Trae. Don't let him touch that, like, pioneering filmmaking hand. Don't do it. He's the enemy when he's in there, Spike. Look what he did
Spike,
to us.
We love you, baby. We love you here in the A.
See?
The Midas
Don't let
touch.
him-
Grant you the Midas touch, baby.
Don't let him do it. Man, I will say that it just like we said last week, you know, like, yes, the Knicks won 3 in the regular season against the Hawks, but
Yeah.
different team, different coach for a bunch of those games. Trae was injured for the last game. They have the exact same record coming into the playoffs.
Crazy.
It's going to be close.
It's going to be close. So to that point, like, what adjustments do you guys need to make, though? Like, you know, every team, game 1 to game 2, like, we the Hawks have to make adjustments as well. Everybody has to make adjustments. What's y'all's for the Knicks?
I was looking up Elfrid Payton, Knicks starter Elfrid Payton's plus minus for the last couple of weeks. My guy fell off the bottom of, I'm not even kidding, I tweeted it. He fell off the bottom of the screen. His plus minus has been so tough.
Jason.
He fell off the bottom of the graph and he came back up a little bit, like a little point, and then he fell back down. He looked like crypto over the last couple of weeks. He is the only starter who did not score.
Yeah.
Everybody else scored. And I just think we got to go a different way. It's time for Derek. Like, it's going to be too close. We can't, he only played 8 minutes, but we can't give up those 8. It's time for Derrick Rose to start. And we'll figure out with Quickly and maybe with Frank Ntilikina, figure out the rest of the minutes, but it's going to be too close to give away those minutes. The other thing is Julius Randle will bounce back somehow. I thought he forced a little bit early and should have looked to maybe play make. But he's going to figure out a way to get off. That I'm not concerned about that. You know, are we going to get another Alec Burks 27-point game again?
18
probably
in the fourth quarter. What is that?
That was nuts. But I think Julius Randle will figure out a way. And listen, Trae, we're just going to have to throw a bunch of different looks at him. He's too good to just show him one thing.
Agreed.
And
that pick and roll.
It's deadly. It's deadly. His handle is too good, and he can shoot it from too far out. It's just
and speaking of like spectacular, Trae Young in his debut, he finished with 32 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds. That was his playoff debut. LeBron James is the only other player with 30 points, 10 assists, and 5 rebounds in their postseason debut. So just to put it in perspective, because sometimes people need to see those kind of numbers side by side, Trae Young's debut night was like literally the stuff people dream of.
one more thing. The Hawks are just a dangerous offensive team. They were number 9 offense during the season. They have just a the gang of people that can shoot 40% from 3. Bogdanovich was absolutely nails this game. He, as I said last week, he's a guy that I'm legitimately scared of. The Knicks did it primarily with offense. They were very scrappy. It's a bunch of times they could have gone away in that game, but they hit big shots.
Definitely.
I'd love to see them find that defensive identity again. Listen, you can't, again, Trey.
Tom Thibodeau team. I mean, that's literally what Tom Thibodeau is known for. So I don't see the defense.
Can we reconnect with that? Of course,
Yep.
Trey is just going to be tough, but can we reconnect with that defensive mentality? Because I think it was a little bit of gravy with the offense. We got, again, Alec Burks with 27 points plus 8 over the course of the game. He was hitting like pump and goes like on the baseline. Like,
it was unbelievable. I just and that's another thing. So talking about adjustments, I think for as much as everyone was saying the New York Knicks missed a lot of shots, Bogey missed. Danilo Gallinari missed a lot of shots. Bogey hit the biggest shot of the game when he hit that 3-pointer with just under a minute left to tie it up at 103.
That swung it. That was a game-swinging type of shot.
That was a huge play. But before that, it wasn't like Bogey and Gallo were just on fire. We actually didn't hit a lot. Like, a lot of those shots were the second half is what I'll say. So I'm just excited. Look, that was game 1. I'm excited because we got probably 6 more of those. It doesn't look like.
It looks like a pick'em series, as many have said. It looks, again, exact same record coming in. It's going to be a long series. My heart can't take this much more.
Let's go! Okay, so as we know, we can talk about it all day because the Knicks and Hawks series might be the one that you and I are watching the closest, Jason, but there were definitely some other great games all weekend. The first round of the playoffs did not disappoint, so let's start with the Bucks and the Heat. Another finals last-second shot from Chris Middleton, a little dribble to the right, step back, cash money to lead Milwaukee over Miami. What are your thoughts? What are we thinking?
I think that it was a real battle, and it seemed like one of those games where, the Bucks are a little scared again, or just a little shaky coming out of the gate. But I'm really impressed with the Bucks this win. Number one, Middleton being the guy who gets the shot at the end, and the second thing is they shot 5 for 31 from 3, and they won that game. Do you know how many times they've won a game where they've shot that percentage?
How much?
From 3 over none, because it never happened. This is the worst 3-point shooting game that they've shot all season, and they won. That's huge to me. That shows that this team is a kind of like has a different kind of spine than they have had in previous incarnations. I really love that they won that game. I'm not saying that the Heat are going to just go away. That is absolutely not the case with an Eric Spoelstra coach team and a Pat Riley run franchise, and with Jimmy Butler on that squad and Goran Dragic and the guys they have. But that was a huge marker for me, for them winning that game. What did you think?
Okay, so you don't care that they're like the higher seed, won by 2 points?
I don't, because again, that 5 for 31 and then to come back and win it.
Okay, but that 5 for 31, I will raise you a Butler finishing with 17 points, 4 for 22 shooting from the field. I don't know. To me, that is very rare as well, because we know Jimmy Buckets is called Jimmy Buckets for a reason. So to me, those two things could pretty much, let's say, offset each other. And shouts to Giannis, who was the primary defender on Butler for 32 possessions as opposed to 10 possessions in their entire series last year. But to me, I guess when you get to the playoffs, it was different. I had a different mindset. Like when we were the number 1 team in Minnesota, our first couple rounds, we wanted people to know we are the number 1 seed. We wanted our play to show it. We wanted the score to reflect it. We wanted to show that, look, there's a difference here because it sets the tone. Like, to me, look, and I get it. It's so evenly matched in the NBA, but a 109-107 win, Milwaukee over Miami, I mean, that's...
But let me ask you this, okay? So the Heat are not your typical lower seed, right? This is a somewhat of a rivalry. This is a team that the Bucks have history with. This will be like, if the Sparks fell because of injuries or whatever, fell to a lower seed, and then you play them. Yes, you're the number one, but you're also looking at them as a different type of team. And I feel like if you didn't show somebody the score and said the Bucks played the Heat game 1, they shot 5 for 31. What do you think happened? I think you'd think the Heat won that game.
But you would have to mention that Jimmy Butler went 4 for 22. If you told people those two stat lines, I think that people would not know what happened, because everyone knows that this Miami team goes where Jimmy Butler goes. So if Jimmy Butler, while he had 17 points, 4 for 22 is a tough night. It's a period.
That said, people have been asking season after season, when are they going to unleash Giannis as a defender? And with all that length and all that athleticism, and when are they going to put him on the other team's primary scorer? They did it.
So, and shouts to Giannis, because the superstars, a lot of times there's that idea to rest the superstars. You don't want them to guard the other superstar because you need them on offense. So shouts to Giannis for taking that step and being like, yo, I have to lock him down. Now, you made an example. You gave an example about the Sparks. Well, honestly, the Lakers are kind of that example in a sense of they've been hurt all year. Everybody thought, bow, they're just going to turn it on for the playoffs. It's going to be amazing, because guess what? They're the Lakers. But you're saying that that's what should happen with Miami, and it just doesn't happen that way. Your season record is for a reason. That's how the team has been performing. And so let's move on to the Lakers and Phoenix, where Phoenix beat them 99-90. But the real problem was the Lakers played pretty much the same way they played, but you're playing a good team now, and there's no on and off switch. I know that some players have on and off switches. I firmly believe it. I've seen players just flip the switch, and I'm like, whoa. But teams, that's different.
I agree with you. I think part of the problem is with that on and off switch mentality, that idea is you can have an on and off switch if you've got a group that has played together a lot.
Yep.
This Lakers team is not a group that has played together a lot, or even you could argue a little. They've got a lot of new faces. James has been out. He had the longest injury stretch of his entire career. Davis was in and out of the lineup. They bring in Andre Drummond as a new face. And it's the results are not confidence inspiring. First of all, big ups to Phoenix, who won and have been one of the great stories of the season. Chris Paul cementing his place as, top 4, top 3 point guard all time. He took a knock, had a shoulder injury, left the game, came back, played, didn't look himself, was really favoring that left hand a lot, but still, Devin Booker, 34 points, picked up the pace. Chris Paul still had 8 assists, still played good defense. And I gotta say, was it just me, or did DeAndre Ayton look like he played really solid defense against Anthony Davis? Now listen,
100.
I'm not saying Anthony Davis has the talent to overcome any kind of defense, but DeAndre Ayton was up in his jersey, bothering him with length for a lot of that game, and Davis came away with 13 points, 5 of 16 from the field, did have 3 blocks, was a minus 18 in the game. Man, that was really concerning if you're a Laker fan.
But, I mean, Jason, to that point, Davis even said to himself, we're not going to win a lot of games with me playing like that. So he acknowledged that he definitely didn't play his best. But to your point, DeAndre Ayton, you have to give people credit. Sometimes I'm sure there were a lot of shots in there that Anthony Davis on any other circumstance would make it. So he probably missed a lot of his makeable shots, but you also have to give credit where credit is due. DeAndre Ayton just didn't make it easy on him. He played really hard. He didn't make it easy on him. And to that point, you talked about the plus minuses. LeBron was the only one with a positive plus minus. I'm not really into those. Those numbers can be skewed if you're on the court with,
they can be
depending
skewed.
On who.
Yeah,
yes, sure. But that is telling that when LeBron is on the court, they're a +2 team. When Anthony Davis is on the court, they're a -18. But Kyle Kuzma, 0 points in 19 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a pretty loud stat. Everyone's talking about Andre Drummond and can he be a part of it? But if you have somebody playing 19 minutes and they give you a goose egg, that's tough. That's tough to overcome. That's a lot of minutes.
That absolutely can't happen.
You over here trying to bench Payne after 8 minutes of no production. Come on, Kuzma.
Okay, wait, let's talk about, this has been a big point of conversation amongst Laker fans, amongst the media. Andre Drummond, Lakers brought him in at the trade deadline. They are starting him alongside Davis, a 2-big lineup, and it just is, for whatever kind of benefits that you're thinking you're getting, rim protection, shot blocking, another big, overwhelm a team with size, you get that extra rebounding, it does not look to be working. I would argue that Drummond is doing a better job of guarding the Lakers than he is guarding Phoenix, because the spacing is all clogged up. They don't have the same kind of driving lanes. You push Davis farther out on the court. Now, he can do that, right? He can do that, but that's not exactly where you would want to play him. You want that whole side of the court open for him to roam. And man, it just does not look like it's working. One, Renee, what do you think? And two, if from a player perspective, right, something's not working, it's playoff time. How do you approach that player and say, okay, we got to try something different, especially a player of Drummond's cachet who has been a named player in the league?
Well, there's two parts to it. It's tough because the NBA has just a new mold, and we all know what that mold is. It's like 3-point is king. And so everything that teams are trying to do is, how can we spread the floor? How can we get spacing? How can we drive, get a layup, or drive, get a dunk, or drive and get a kick to a 3? Like, that's literally the analytics of the NBA. So when you're a player that just doesn't fit into that mold, like Andre Drummond, he's my guy. Shouts to Bleed Blue, UConn Husky. Yeah. It's so tough for the traditional big right now because there's just not a place for them. There's the new style where you see a Joker and you see a Joel Embiid. What do they have in common? They're big men that have skill sets of a guard. That's the new wave. That's what you have to do. A Rudy Gobert, Andre Drummond, those bigs, it's just not the way of the NBA right now, the analytics and how it's fallen. And so how do you talk to a player like that? Look, you got to bring him to the side and be like, hey, listen, we're trying to do something big. We're trying to win a championship, and the numbers just aren't adding up. Look at the numbers when you're in the lineup. Look at our numbers when we have this lineup. Look at the analytics when you're on the court. You know, you have to take one for the team in a sense of your minutes might be limited, but you might get a championship out of it. Like, that's how you have to talk to players. I mean, he knows now, you know, he got sat in Cleveland for X amount of time until they could move him somewhere else. And I think that's a problem. It shouldn't happen that way. But it's because people don't necessarily know what to do with the traditional big anymore. And you just got to be real with them. Like, bro, we trying to win a championship and teams are guarding us a certain way when you're on the court. So when you're out there, you know, we can still start them. And we might pull them 5 minutes into it, but it's when you're out there, make the most of it. Do your thing. Don't change your game. But just as far as minutes-wise, they might be less moving forward.
Man, all I can think is Marc Gasol must have, like, hit Frank Vogel's car or something. Or, like, I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did, but he can't find the court with Google Maps. Forget about it.
Well, listen, speaking of finding the court, okay, so there's a little bit of controversy with this Utah-Memphis game. Utah, as we know, lost by 3 to Memphis, 112-109. But Donovan Mitchell, he like this is okay. So but let me set it up. I like where this is going. Before the game, he said, look, I feel good. There's always going to be some soreness, but I'm ready to go tonight. No pain. I'm excited to get going. And then after the game, Spider Mitchell said, sorry, y'all. I wish I could say more. I'll be out there soon. We know now, since there's some things happening, you know, look, Jason, you have some theories. So I would love to hear what happened with this Utah-Memphis situation and what happened with Donovan Mitchell.
I'm gonna lay out a conspiracy theory that is not even really that far-fetched. And you tell me what you think, okay?
Okay.
Utah's the number 1 seed. Defensive powerhouse. Hit a bunch of threes. They got a lot of players hitting on all cylinders right now. They got a bench headlined by Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles. They got the best rim protector in the league. I think they looked across the bracket. They saw the Grizzlies limp into the playoffs. Have to fight through the play-in to get there. And I think they thought, okay, Mitchell is coming off the ankle sprain. Maybe we can steal another day and a half of rest here. We're going to roll over this 8th seed that is probably a little winded after coming through the play-in to get here. And we're at home. We're at altitude at home. And so let's get a little cute. I think we win this game without Donovan Mitchell. And I think that bit them. That's personally what I think. Now,
so you think the team made a business decision that I think we can beat Memphis without Donovan. So let's get him one more game of rest. He'll be back out there. Just give him a little bit more rest. Okay.
And I think they sold it to Donovan because, listen, if Donovan Mitchell wanted to play and was like, I'm playing, I don't know that I buy that the Utah Jazz hold firm and go, absolutely not. I think if we take this, the pregame quote to be factual, I feel good, always going to be soreness, I'm ready to go tonight. I think if Mitchell pushed the issue, they let him play. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I feel.
So you're saying that you think he just found out. He just found out and was like, basically they were like,
I think they sold it to him. And I think he agreed with it. I think if they came to him and said, listen, we can beat these guys. I think we got them. Like, we're at home.
Yeah.
Rudy, everybody's ready to go. Why don't you just sit this one? We're going to win this series. We're going to win this game. Sit this one out. It'll be fine. And I think it just bit him. Because I honestly feel like if Donovan Mitchell was like, no, I'm going, then he would have went. And guess what happened? It turns out the Grizzlies aren't Grizzlies. They're freaking dogs. Because
shouts to the Memphis Grizzlies, man. Because, that's another thing. I have to make sure, because a lot of times in TV, and we are basically TV, it'll be like if there's the number 1 seed, no matter what the lower seed does, you always talk about the number 1 seed. So let me switch gears a little bit. Come on, Brooks. 31 points. 13 for 26 from the floor. But what I love is he's in his post game, he said, they just had some guys out there that couldn't guard me. Like, woo!
I get tired watching him. He makes me tired because, man, he's the type of player that if I was like in an alley with him, I'd be like, man, I'm about to get mugged and scored on. He is just nonstop on both sides.
Agreed.
He is in people's jersey on the defensive side, and then on offense, this guy just does not stop working you. Working you.
Brooks
it's
and
unreal.
Ja Morant, I'm telling you, that the way they play with this chip on their shoulder, this underdog and mentality embraced. And look, the thing about it is these players watch the news. I said it earlier with Trae Young and all of them. If you wonder why these guys be gassed up in the game and like you see them turned up, they watch First Take. They watch all of these different shows that may have opinions about the game. So if you see the players, like you could clearly tell, and this is a fact, literally all of the ESPN analysts, other than one, shouts to Mona McNutt, everyone said that they were going to lose in every single round. And so if you wonder why they're running around crazy, why they're turned up, why they're going off, players, like, that's chalkboard stuff. Like, players take that to heart. And so for me, when you see him say, yeah, there's some guys out there just couldn't guard me, that's him letting people know, next time y'all talk about our game and talk about this awesome defense, Jason, from the Utah, you better let them know that there's guys that can't guard us.
They could not guard. And that's the other thing. Listen, yes, Donovan Mitchell was not in the game.
Right.
You're a top defense in this league for years. Rudy Gobert is a number 1 defense in a box. He is a number 1 rim
supposed
protector.
To be the defensive player of the year.
Come on.
Clint Capella didn't even make the finalist.
You have people who really know basketball, whose opinions I absolutely respect, who can make dark horse MVP candidates for Rudy Gobert because
oh my God,
that's how much he embodies their defensive ethos and their ability. Why couldn't they stop anybody? Why couldn't they stop Dylan Brooks? Why couldn't they do that?
Questions that need to be answered. Clint Capella was not a finalist, and I only say that because he's number 1 in rebounds at the end of the season. You know, because halfway through the season, people are like, "Oh yeah, you're a low-ranked team." We ended up the number 5 team. He's a number 1 in rebounding, number 3 in block shots.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he should have necessarily won, but how is that not a finalist?
I mean, he gave the Knicks a lot of problems. I'll just say that.
That's what he does on a normal basis. And so I'm just saying, you know how when people tell you to put up or shut up? Okay, Utah, you're the top team for a reason.
Brian Windhorst wrote a piece today, and in it he writes, quote, Utah Jazz star Donovan Mitchell was incensed at the late decision to scratch him from Sunday's playoff opener, and it deepened tensions with the team regarding his recovery from a right ankle sprain, sources told ESPN. That source is probably named Donovan Itchell. We expect Donovan to play in Game 2 now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would expect that Donovan's going to play in Game 2. Also, so to your point, I do think that it was probably told this way. First of all, players want to play. So Donovan Mitchell, I believe he missed 16 regular season games before missing that one. So knowing how long he's been out, I can pretty much assume that he was really hyped to play. First of all, there's advertisements all over TV. He wants to be a part of the action. It's the playoffs. It's the whole thing you've been playing for all season long. But to your point, I do think probably the medical staff was like, yo, if we could get you to look, imagine this. Yeah. Hey, you don't play in this game. There's 3 games until the next game after that. So we would be able to get you 5 more days of rest. You know, I could just see how the conversation went. So Donovan Mitchell probably was like, I want to play, but all right, whatever, man. Like, I get you. And then when they lost, when they dropped
now
one,
you're mad. Now you're mad.
Now he's big mad, and I get it because he's like, so I was ready to go. Let me get this straight. I was ready to go. I literally said, I feel good. Of course, it's going to be a little sore, but I'm ready to roll tonight. I'm excited to get going. You guys tell me to sit out, and now we're 0-1. Why is that a big deal? Because players understand games matter, and everybody can be like, oh, it's just one game. But if anybody that's listening has ever been in a series, which I've been in a series before, a 5-game series with LA Sparks, getting those 3 wins are like the hardest thing ever. So when you say it's just one game, I remember every single game. It's like those 40 minutes are the longest minutes ever. And it's like you break it down by 4-minute periods, and you just break the game down so much that you would never just say it's just one game. Donovan Mitchell gets that.
You can't give it away like that. Okay, let's go to number 4, Los Angeles Clippers versus number 5, Jason Gallagher's team, the Dallas Mavericks. And let me just say this. Patrick Beverley cannot guard Luka Doncic. When Luka Doncic did the he's too small thing,
that was
he is absolutely right. Luka is just too big and too much of a load for but I was shocked at this final score. Like, come on. The Clippers, you got Kawhi and you got Paul George, and from game to game the Mavericks don't know who their number 2 scorer is going to be. But man, Luka Doncic is a load.
Luka Doncic is a load. You know, last year we all remember what happened in the bubble with the Clippers, and their whole thing this year was, we are not that same Clippers team. I mean, everything about what they were doing. The players are even practicing now. I remember somebody said something like last year the whole team only practiced together like 3 times, which is pretty wild, but with load management and you know, different things going on, I can believe it. So this year they're like, all right, we're actually going to practice. We're actually going to practice together. We're not going to be that same team, but it's scary because it's looking like that same team that in the bubble was unstable, was not solid. And what I mean by solid is Kawhi had 26 points, and that's why you can't always look at stats. Kawhi had 26 points. He was 9 for 22, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, but the impact felt in the game. Paul George, 23 points, 8 for 18, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, but it's the impact felt in the game. I felt like Kawhi and Paul George should have controlled the game. I mean, if you asked who's the best players in that game before the game, people would have mentioned their names, and they didn't play bad. Don't get me wrong, but the story of the game was Luka Doncic.
Two of the best two-way wings in the league, certainly over the last several years, and I just think those two guys need to be much more involved in trying to stop Luka from going for 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists, because he just did whatever he wanted to do, got wherever he wanted to go. People forget he is LeBron James size. Like, he is a big guy, and I think he's just too big for Pat Beverly. Like, they got to put wings on him.
But the same way we just talked about Giannis taking that on himself, that he's like, all right, look, I'm going to guard Butler. Well, we have to see Kawhi or Paul George be like, look, I'm going to take the assignment of guarding Luka. We can alternate it, but we can't let Luka go 11 for 24, get 10 rebounds, 11 assists, his third career postseason triple-double. Like, just those guys have to just decide. Like, it's not like we're asking non-defenders to just all of a sudden be defenders. These are well-known two-way players. So for me, they just have to stand up. Like, you have to just decide, you know, tonight is not going to happen. And when I say tonight, game 2 is set for Tuesday night at 7:30 on TNT. They have to decide, like, it ain't happening tonight. Like, that just has to be something they decide within.
Next, Boston 93, Brooklyn Nets 104. I got to say, first of all, we expected. This is, we don't need to talk about this too much. This is an absolutely expected outcome. I will say, as a New York Knicks fan, I found it quite humorous that as the Knicks sold out Madison Square Garden, James Harden starred in a social video for the Nets where he was like, hey, use promo code Nets basketball for great seats to them. But we expected this.
Crazy,
you know. Boston is down a star. Jason Tatum struggled a little bit, and the Nets just have too much firepower, right?
Yeah, I mean,
probably a sweep. This
is like Brooklyn looking like a top team. That's all it is. Moving on to the next round. But what do you think about this Portland Denver now? Portland 123. Oof. Denver 109. Now, we talked about this. We talked about it in the play. We actually talked about this in the play-in game scenario, but we said the same sentiments. No one wants to see Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum in any type of playoff post game. It's Dame time. Like, you know how the fourth quarter is supposed to be Dame time? Well, all postseason feels like Dame time. That's just not who you want to match up with. What are your thoughts?
If you're Denver, you can't let this can't happen. Like, I understand Jamal Murray lost for the season with that really tough knee injury, but like, Michael Porter Jr. this guy has taken the leap in the absence of Jamal Murray. You still have Jokic, who was feasting offensively. Dame I told you the take, Jason Gallagher's take, that Dame ruins the playoffs every single year because they beat a team that they shouldn't beat, and then they go forward and they get stomped. But man, I was really surprised at this outcome. I was shocked. I was shocked.
I mean, I think a lot of people were, and I think a lot of people weren't. But
not that they would win, but 123, 109.
No, that's a whooping. That's like they got whooped. But now, when we talk about MVP talk, does that change things? I mean, should the MVP's higher ranked team take a whooping like that? I mean, and grant you, it's not a one-man team, a one-man show, but a lot of times when they talk about All-Star, they talk about these end-of-the-year awards. It's how well is your team doing? This is an MVP candidate in the Joker. Grant you, he played great. 34 points, 16 rebounds, 1 assist. That's the part to me. 1 assist. That's one of his strongest skill sets. We talk about his passing. Yeah. The 1 assist is what's interesting to me.
He was passing the ball. You know, here's where the Jamal Murray thing comes in. He has less targets. That said, I wouldn't change it because it is a regular season award. Obviously, this isn't ideal. Obviously, we're overreacting to game ones. I'm overreacting to the Knicks loss. This is what we do.
This is why we're here to overreact. This is what we do.
We got to overreact. But listen, there is precedent for this. You know, I'm sorry to bring this up to Jason Gallagher, but Dirk Nowitzki famously won the MVP award and then got stomped out in the playoffs. It's a regular season award. I don't change my mind.
Oh, wait, so you thought the Joker should be the regular season MVP anyway?
I think he should be the MVP. I think he's my MVP.
You know what? I think if we ran the tape, it's actually interesting because at the time that we asked, I picked Damian Lillard. I was like, if we had to pick it today, I had picked Damian Lillard just because, I mean, his numbers are out of this world. Again, I don't know why he always ends up falling off the list. It's like the list ever evolves, and then it's like certain players just are no longer on there. But, I mean, Damian Lillard is one of those guys that he's been killing it to that point.
Killing it.
If the Joker gets stomped out in the playoffs, that's just not a good look. But it doesn't matter when it comes to Player of the Year. But what do you think about Philly and DC? The Washington Wizards, Philadelphia 76ers, 125. The Wizards, 118. I mean, Bill and Westbrook were on a tear, and hit just a really good team. What are your thoughts?
So, first of all, shouts to the Washington Wizards on an amazing turnaround to the season, on getting into the playoffs, on proving a lot of people wrong on this game, which was a lot closer than many people expected, including myself. I think they had a lead at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. But Philly has too many weapons. They're too good. They got Embiid into foul trouble early, and that played a big role. Maybe if they can continue to get Embiid into foul trouble, maybe the next 3 games are close, but I expect Philly to romp either a sweep or a 5-game series. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, Philly is a good team. And this is what I mean by if you're a good team and you want people to know it, you need to handle teams that you should beat the teams you're supposed to beat. They say this during the regular season. If you're a higher seed, you should beat the clubs that you should beat. And I think it's no different in the playoffs. It was a close game. I think it was a very winnable game for DC in a sense of... It was
winnable. Extremely winnable.
Extremely winnable. And I don't know, if I was the 76ers, I'd be a little alarmed by that. But what really hurt the Wizards is 6 turnovers from Russell Westbrook at very key times. That's for the whole game. He had 6. But Bradley Beal also had 6 turnovers. That's not to mention that Joel Embiid had 5 of his own. But when you have 2 of your main guys with 12 turnovers and some of them being in crunch time.
Russ had that step on the line where he bobbled the ball, and then that was just, that was crushing.
But to that point, if you're the Wizards, you watch back the tape, you start to see, wait a minute, guys, we're in this game.
This up, right? We clean this up a little bit. That said, there's a lot of things that I don't know how replicable they are. It really feels like if you're Washington, you really wasted one here. Like you needed this one.
That was the one. That was the one because Joel Embiid in foul trouble. It was the perfect storm. And by the way, Joel Embiid was in foul trouble. He still ended up dropping 30.6 rebounds, 3 assists. So he's just that, again, another MVP candidate that willed his team to win. But yeah, I think that if the Wizards had like their shot at the surprise game, that was the one. Yeah.
Well, it's been an incredibly fun first weekend of the playoffs, except for the game on Sunday, which I'll stop talking about. I just can't wait for the rest of the games this week, Renee. I can't wait to talk about them as we head to the finals.
Yes. All right, so you know what that now means. It's time for Buzzer Beaters, where we talk the stories that we didn't cover in the show because of time. Jason, I'm going to let you handle this.
Okay, so we both picked Julio Jones calling into Undisputed with Shannon Sharpe and Lizard Man Skip Bayless. So this happened this morning. We're taping this on a Monday. During the live broadcast of Undisputed, Shannon Sharpe appeared to call Atlanta Falcons receiver Julio Jones and ask Jones about the current trade rumors that are swirling around while on speakerphone during this time. Shannon has Julio on. And he never mentions that they are on live TV. This caused a lot of conversation about speakerphone etiquette, back and forth. That said, man, there are actually like legal implications, as you well know, on whenever someone comes on a program, there needs to be releases.
But do you think he knew?
Also the phone calls.
Because don't you think he knew? You think he knew?
I think he had to know. I think that there's no world in which he didn't know. That said, I think that there's a universe in which Shannon texts Julio and then assumes that Julio would think, okay, what else would I be texting him for? You know what I mean? Like, and then when he makes the call and Skip is in the background saying hello, that maybe it went through Shannon's mind that, oh, of course Julio thinks that we're on undisputed right now. But was he actually aware that they were rolling? Man, I don't. What do you think?
I think Julio Jones had no idea. Only reason I say that is like, who does a rollout like that? We've seen JJ Watt. He made a whole production out of, hey, I'm leaving. I want to tell the fans why I'm leaving.
Right.
And then on his own social media account, he showed the fans where he was going next. Players use that as an opportunity to promote, market. I just feel like if that was where he was going to announce to the world that he was no longer going to be a Falcon. Now, this is coming off of seeing him in a Dallas Cowboys hoodie, just randomly somebody put, like this is coming off of allegations, but he hadn't addressed them yet. So you mean to tell me that he's like, I'm out of here, Shannon on the phone? And I don't think listen, call me naive. I really thought he was talking to his homie. And then he realized, wait, am I on TV?
Right, and he could have thought, oh, they're on a break, and maybe they just want to know what's going on. Now, Whitney McIntosh on my Twitter mention says that you can hear Taft, she thinks, in the background saying, quote, "Can you remind him we're on television right now?"
Now, Jason,
it really feels like they were sweating. So that leads me to believe,
now, Jason,
they were
why
sweating
would a producer? We got producers on this show, and we do a lot of different interviews. That none of them are hopping in the middle of the interview and like, Jason, make sure they know that we're recording this. That's just not a normal behavior if everything was already cleared beforehand. That's all I'm going to say, because that's crazy.
So let me ask you this, right? Number one, Fox Sports Legal is absolutely going, don't do this again. Please don't do this, because if that is the case and Julio Jones didn't know, there's a world in which Julio Jones is like, I'm suing Fox Sports 1 because they not only taped me without my consent, but then they aired it on live TV.
What a nightmare.
That won't happen. But if that is the case, you know how this works. What I would expect to happen is Julio's reps get at Fox Sports and say, you owe us.
Big time.
Big time.
Like whenever we come back for that favor, it's a yes. Like it's one of those type things.
Yes,
Jason,
you owe us.
Also, let me put this on your brain. Like I'm in the media journalism world, so I've like, to Julio's defense, I've had people call me and be like, "Hey, just for context, this is off the record," or just one of those calls where it makes it seem like we just want to know where your head is at. Can you give us context? Now, if Julio Jones thought it was one of those calls, just so people understand, like every time someone calls you from the media doesn't mean that you're going to be live on air. I've been called from plenty of my media friends, LaChina Robinson, all of them. They just want to know what you're thinking so that when they talk about you on air, they know. So just so people understand, this is not a wild thing that could have happened. He could have just thought that Shannon Sharp was calling him to see where his head was at because they're discussing it. And he thought he was giving him a nugget like, oh, I'm out of here, Unc. Like, I'm gone. And then now the whole world heard it. It's a nightmare. I'm scared.
Listen here. If that is the case, and you see Julio Jones's second cousin co-hosting Undisputed with Shannon Sharp, don't question why, because you know why.
It's gonna be called Second Take with Julio Jones, baby.
Okay, that's it for us this week. Please follow and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to Takeline Show on YouTube for exclusive video clips from this episode, plus my digital series, All Caps NBA, which airs every Friday. Check it out. Oh, let me survive this week.
Let's